that finding similarities. So what you like is probably not what I like. So if you like a song by, say, Twisted Sister, I don't know, I won't judge. We can say, so you like this song, here are 10 other songs that you will most likely like because you like this one song. And so we wrapped all of that up in uplaya.com and said, you know what, the web and the world has a curation problem. Up until the past 5 years, we've had these gatekeepers, guys in suits in LA and New York, who said, yeah, they'll love this, they'll like that, they'll like this, they'll like that. You know, we'll genetically grow boys in a lab and make them sing and dance, and we'll shove it down the throats of our consumers because there was no other way to discover music. If it wasn't on TV or the radio, you weren't going to hear it unless you traveled the globe going to clubs and listening to, you know, really crazy stuff. Or you had that friend, you know, your personal A&R guy who was like, you know what, you really need to listen to the Cramps. Okay, yes. What else do you got? I had a friend like that she was my mixtape hookup. She was like, here's what I'm listening to. I stole it from the radio station at school. You'll love it. And so that's how I discovered things like Morphine and Living Color and all these great bands that no one's ever heard of. But now we have the internet. And what's great about the internet is that you can find anything that you want. But you can also find a lot of it and a lot of stuff that you're going to hate. You know, you've got 100 tons of music. You're only going to like 3 pounds of it. You don't want to have to sift through 100 tons to find the 3 pounds that are good. We can find the 3 pounds like that without anyone having to listen to it. We send our little robot out, listens to the song, says, hey, based on what we know about you, you'll like these 3 songs. Yes, I do. Technology is great. It's controversial. Everybody's first reaction is to call BS on it because no one thinks that a machine knows what they like. You don't trust it, but it does. Welcome to the world. We've run a bunch of contests over the last 2 years to get people excited about it. We've had some decent success with social media. And I've been involved in social media so long that I think of it as community still. Back when it was chat on AOL and message boards and forums, when we had forum leaders and community managers. Before I get any farther, this presentation wasn't my idea. My CEO was supposed to be here and present this. He didn't really give me a lot of detail about what I was supposed to present. So it might go a bit sideways, but I swear there's a point in here somewhere. So here are the topics. You probably read them on the press release, and this is what I just was like, forget the first 2 paragraphs. I will answer these 4 questions, and then I will go home and have barbecue, because that's what Savannah does best. So first one is how to wrap your product in an app. And it's really hard to define, like people think, have all these weird definitions of what an app is. We're talking about binary code you run on your phone, some portal to your product through Facebook or LinkedIn or MySpace or one of the other, you know, platforms out there that let you do your thing. I expect the same experience with your product on my phone, or better. It better be interesting, or your app will get deleted. If I'm going to give you my Facebook or Twitter details, it better be worth it. This isn't Microsoft Windows because I figured Enterprise 2.0, you're all running Windows and have to deal with this stuff, but I don't. Haha. The thing is, you don't want to have to build, here's my API for my Facebook app. Here's how my iPhone app talks to my product. You really only want to have to deal with that once, and you only want to maintain it once. So how do you support mobile, social, and all of these other interfaces to your product? Aha, APIs to the rescue. How many of you have APIs for your product now? 4, 5, 6. Oh, good, they're my people. So your API should be HTTP based. That's the language that everyone speaks. Keep it private. Don't say, hey, we've got an API, developers, come play, because you have no idea the support nightmare you're in for. Releasing an API is a contract. So don't sign that contract until you're willing to support it, until you have a full-time staff on documentation and developer support and evangelism. Keep your API to yourself. At AOL, one of the things that forced my exit was that API kept breaking that. AOL kept breaking that contract. We'd release these great APIs, most of which I designed and supported. And they'd send me to conferences all over the world to talk about them and how cool they were and how awesome JSON is and all this stuff. And then they would kill them 6 months later with no explanation, leaving all of these developers who'd built products around them adrift. You know, we just killed off an entire ecosystem. So don't do that. Keep it simple. HTTP is the way to go. I mean, you could build your API in Memcached if you want. I don't recommend it. JSON. You've all done. Anybody know what SOAP is? Oh, yes, old school. SOAP is the devil. We'll talk about it in a minute. OAuth 2, REST. I'm not going to bombard you with any more acronyms. Why JSON? It's schemaless. You don't have to have a WSDL file for it. And if you know what that is, I'm sorry. It's faster to parse than XML. It's lighter over the wire. You can compress it down to almost nothing. The problem with SOAP and even generic basic XML is that it's inflationary. You're sending at least three times more data as a wrapper than you are the actual data that you care about. And SOAP is probably 10x or maybe more. JSON is great. Go check it out if you haven't yet. It's gorgeous. It works great on the web. You can serve JSON right to a browser, and JavaScript can parse it. You don't have the cross-site scripting restrictions that you do with trying to do XML over HTTP to a browser. So OAuth 2, fairly new. Don't write your own custom authentication logic. Please don't. Developers hate it. It will make them sad. If you follow, see, that's why we have web standards. I spent 5 years in the W3C working on CSS and HTML. I was AOL's AC rep, which meant I was like, yes, no on standards all the time. And the most important thing is this interoperability. That's why we have standards. If you code to this, then it doesn't matter what language your developers use or what language they move to in the future. There will be an OAuth 2 library for it. They can plug into your stack, and not have to worry about all the other details. Supported by Facebook, hundreds of other sites are implementing it either as like their way to get into Facebook or to provide their own. REST, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. If you don't know what it is, you should. It's the way you deal with data on the web. Dog food is yummy. If you don't build your own app around your API, you're doing it wrong. You know, you can't have this bastard child sitting to the right and then your baby on the left with, this is your product. They need to be the same thing. If it works for your product, it's going to work for your API. If your iPhone app, if your website can use it, your iPhone app will be able to use it. So where do you decide what apps to build? Where are your users? Find out. Look at, if you don't use Google Analytics or something like it, shame on you, but you should be. See what mobile browsers people are using to access your site. If they're all on BlackBerries, then you don't need to build an iPhone app. If they're all on iPhones, then you do. If, Android's gone like a hockey stick in the past 2 months, you might want to think about doing an Android app instead. And then see which social networks bring you the most traffic. If you're doing a B2B thing, Facebook is probably not where you need to be. You might want to build an app for LinkedIn. Just see where, you want to go where they are or where they're going to be, not where they aren't. Or you can say, screw it, I'm going to do the mobile web, because you might not need an app. If your app doesn't do anything that interesting, sorry, it might not, you could just spend your time building and making your website look great on a phone, making your website look great on a tablet, which you should probably be doing anyway. So try that first, see if adoption goes up. If it does, then think about building an app. So any questions about APIs? Because we're moving on to question number 2. Yes?
Do you have an example that you'd be able to show us, like directly?
Yeah, sure. I'll bring up a browser in a second. So this is our Facebook app. And one of the other things that we did, try and get people, interested in the technology, was we built a Facebook app for games. Because people don't go on Facebook to read white papers. They just don't, because white papers are boring. They go on to play games like Farmville. Thankfully, we did not try to make a Farmville game. We made a quiz game. So pick which one. Somebody just shouted out which one you want to do. Okay. So hit song, we allow our artists to come in and find somebody who's good. So the real problem with why there's so many broke musicians is there are lots of horrible musicians out there. They are the 100 tons. But there's got to be somebody out there that loves them, so we'll help hook those people up with people who like the 100 tons. So this game, we let people, the artists come in and they can choose which songs they want to show up in the game, and then the people playing it, they have to put them in the order, the right hit prediction order. It's in Flash. That was not my idea. This is why I hate Flash. Don't ever do anything in Flash if you can help it. Avoid monopolists at all costs. That's my rule in life. That's why I'm on a Mac. Flash, you're locked in. You're stuck. Thankfully, we have an API, so if I wanted to do this in HTML and JavaScript, I could. Probably a lot faster than we did it in Flash. And it would be loaded by now. It's trying. One of those things I can't tell if it's the network or we have something going on. So here we also have leaderboards. So there's the competition thing. Notice most of them are us. I'm really bad at this game, so I'm not even on there. We'll come back to that, I think. Yeah, we have that same game on our iPhone app. We're almost done with the Android app. And because we built an API that was just general purpose, I was like, here's what the data is, here's how to interact with it. I can send a developer off with that documentation, and they can come back with a working game. I don't have to spend a ton of time explaining it to them. They don't have to write any database wrapper code or anything. They don't have to rewrite my app. They just have to use the API, and it's simple. Like, it's just but simple. Couldn't be easier. Okay. Oh, yeah. Social media. Social media and you. But first, a diversion. If you're going to build something that I may potentially use, please don't make me pick another password. For crying out loud, I have enough. Let me bring my identity to you. Use OpenID, use Facebook Connect, use Twitter, With OpenID, you can let me bring in my Google identity, my Yahoo, my AOL, LinkedIn, whatever. LiveJournal, if I'm creepy and hang out in my pajamas all day. And like fan fiction, there's nothing wrong with that. Let me come in. WordPress, any of those will work with OpenID. It saves you the trouble of having to create this super secure login form and the I forgot my password path and all of that stuff. Just do this. It's so much easier. Don't make me pick just one. Say my Yahoo account gets canceled. Don't lock me out of your site because that happened. Let me create backups. And it gives you lots of information about your users. As soon as someone logs in with Facebook Connect, you know who all their friends are. Once they log in with Twitter, you know who they follow. You know who follows them. You know if they're semi-popular or a sham. Most of them are shams, unfortunately. So here we go. Sorry, that was enough of the diversion. We'll go on to social media now, which I still find troubling that everyone is paying attention to it now, because it's my playground and I don't want you guys in it. Okay, has anyone here heard of the Clue Train Manifesto? 2. Has anyone read it? Haha, you all suck. Read it. It was written 12 years ago and is still the best handbook for working on the web ever written. Ever. The Clue Train Manifesto. ClueTrain.com/book. You can read the whole thing for free. But really, you should buy the book. Buy 4 copies. Give it to everyone you know, if you know only 4 people. But really, that's the rule. Like marketing, if you come from a traditional marketing background, you're going to hate the social web. You will hate it. It will not be for you because you are used to shouting at people. You're used to showing them a pretty picture of a stock photo woman that doesn't actually exist, enjoying the hell out of your product. See, I'm from the internet. We can see right through that nonsense. Unless you talk to me like I'm a real human being, I will ignore you. You will stand out like a sore thumb and you will be ignored by everybody. The shouty jazz hands nonsense of, Manhattan and all of that garbage doesn't work. It just does not work in the social web. You have to be yourself. If you are boring, be boring. If you like kites, love the shit out of some kites. You can tell I really get, I love this stuff. So be yourself. If you are not your target audience, like I'm not a musician. I am a music lover. So I do not handle our Twitter account. We hired kids straight out of college to do our marketing for us because for the most part, that's our audience. They're young kids who want to be musicians. They want to make it big. Surprising number of old guys who also this is their semi-retirement, and so I'm going to be George Strait. Oh, no, you're not. You might be a decent Jimmy Buffett cover guy in a restaurant on Bluffton on the weekends, but you're not going to be George Strait. Sorry. You have to take what they say and be authentic about it. If people hate you, accept it and fix it. If they love you, take it with humility and go, thank you. How can we be better? Because you can't control what they say. Madison Avenue is not used to people going up to them and going, you suck. Your commercial with the cat with the ping pong ball, horrible, hated it. If you're on Twitter, they will tell you that 1,000,000 times a day. And you just have to go, okay, what do you want to see a commercial of? We want to see the Old Spice guy on a motorcycle jumping over a lake of fire. You're like, okay, here you go. And if you can't do that, if you're really not into the whole introspection and self-realization and you can't handle constructive or deconstructive feedback, stick with press releases. There are still plenty of guys in suits who read them. I don't know any of those people. They only buy things that come with 500-page manuals and a service contract. That's not really where we're going. That's not where the world is headed. if you can't, like, I love it. I love Tumblr to death. You guys know what Tumblr is? It's sort of this mini blogging. It's sort of if Twitter and a blog had a baby, it would be Tumblr. They've had all these downtime issues because they've grown crazy over the past couple months. And the founder is on Twitter, and he responds to people, and all these people are complaining. He's like, if you don't like it, go away. I was like, well, that's an honest reaction. I could see that if I were if I was in the trenches and dealing with hours and hours of downtime on my product, I'd be a little pissy too. But, you don't normally tell your users to go away. But it was authentic, and people respected it, and they were like, okay, bye. They went to Bloggers. People often, Paul said it before, that, be controversial. Don't. It's okay to have some people hate you in real life. Those people now have Twitter accounts. They will hate you because someone told them to hate you. Hate moves a lot faster on the web than love, unfortunately. They will be out with torches and pitchforks before the guy with flowers ever gets the order. And if you do it wrong, you'll end up doing more harm than good to yourself and your brand. So, but if you do it right, you end up having a real relationship with your customers. We have hundreds of users who know our little marketing kids by name. One of them is writing a song for them. They call up just to ask how they're doing, which I find oddly creepy, but that's okay. We get great emails all the time saying, thank you for posting that link to Twitter. We really appreciate it because it had useful information. The thing on the web is be useful. If you can't be useful, go do something else. And it's far cheaper to have two basically minimum wage interns, being authentic on Twitter and being themselves, which they really are, than it is to hire a marketing firm or, heaven forbid, an SEO farm. Don't ever do that. SEO is so stupid. It just is. If your stuff's not good, it's not worth finding. The key to, all you need to know about SEO, make good stuff. Describe it well, people will find it. Anything else is bullshit. It just is. And people smell it a mile away. So where do you play? Well, where do your potential users hang out? Are they all on Facebook? Well, then you better be on Facebook. Are they all on Twitter? You better be on Twitter. Are they on LinkedIn? Be on LinkedIn. Don't try to do it all. You may have one person on social media marketing. Don't make them go to everything. You don't need a presence on LiveJournal unless you're in the fan fiction pajama community. If your product is built around Buffy the Vampire Slayer, then you better be on LiveJournal. Otherwise, don't bother. If your users are musicians, you better be on Facebook, you better be on Twitter. If your users buy bulldozers, maybe not so much. Yes? That third one? It does. It smells worse because it stays around forever. So here you go, practical. Here are some URLs that you can go to. If you're going to have more than one person deal with your single Twitter account, one, you need to figure out how to get them to talk in the same voice so it doesn't sound like you're schizophrenic. Use something like CoTweet. They were really, I made really good coffee one day, and so the marketers were replying to the same tweet twice, and so we had one thing and then two replies from us. I was like, guys, you only need to do that once. One of you pick. CoTweet sort of helps manage that, and you can see if something's been replied to. If it's just you and you want to track a bunch of different searches, TweetDeck is probably the way to go. It works on Windows and Mac. Definitely use Bitly or something like it, but Bitly's pretty much the best. You give it an URL, it gives you a nice short URL that fits on Twitter, and then you can find out how many people clicked on it and how it spread, which is really the most interesting thing. So someone may have cut and pasted that and put it on Facebook. If you can't track it, you have no idea how your idea spread. Next. Blogging, which we really should have done before all the social nonsense. See, I didn't know who my audience was. I figured Futurama was a safe bet. I think it's funny. You need a blog. You don't know if you need a blog. Really, you should have had a blog 10 years ago. You should have had a blog 12 years ago. But if you don't, get one. It's the easiest way to start that conversation with your users without the sort of dangerous, like, what are they going to say about me of social media? And it allows you to prove your competence. Share what you know. If you don't know anything, learn something and then share it. But you have to know something worth sharing. You know, I signed up for this service called Scout because we have all these machines, and not only am I the CTO and the lead developer, I'm also the sysadmin. And I didn't like logging into every machine and going, how are you doing today? So I was looking for one. One of my friends recommended I check out Scout. I didn't look at their marketing pages. I went straight to their blog. They know what they're doing because they post really technical stuff about how they do what they do. It's a great way to prove competence. If you are, like, I'm a developer, so I don't write on our blog a whole lot, but I could. It would have to prove, I would write stuff that would prove my technical competence. Really, you should have a personal blog where you prove your competence at whatever it is you do. And it's cheap. So just like your social media stuff, it needs to be authentic. If it sounds like a press release, people will stop reading. If it sounds like BS, people will stop reading. If it's not authentic, people will leave. They will never come back. You guys really need to read, there's this book, came out a little while ago called Delivering Happiness. You guys know what Zappos is, right? It's by the CEO of Zappos. Their whole company is built around customer service. It's a fantastic, woven into it is this strategy of humility, which really in the business world, you're never taught that. You're taught you have to be the smartest guy in the room. No, you don't. You have to be the most humble guy in the room. You have to prove by what you do that you know what you're doing. BS just doesn't work anymore. And then ask a lot of questions. People love proving how smart they are. So give them an opportunity on your blog to prove how smart they are. You might find your next employee. You might find your most important fan. And that's really what it is. We're outsourcing our marketing to our users to say, hey, we want to find the people who love our stuff and then give them every opportunity to tell the world how great we are. Works really well. Don't post your press releases to your blog. Not the same audience. Really, I don't know who the audience is for press releases anymore, but don't do them on your blog. Don't talk down to your users. Don't be too controversial. Let your ideas start the controversy. Don't gin it up with your tone. Because then you'll be Jason Calacanis and he doesn't have any friends. And then figure out what regular is for you. It doesn't have to be daily. It doesn't even have to be weekly. But be consistent. Post something at least once a month. This is I loved when MySpace and when social networking started taking off with kids, and we hit the first 4-year mark, where freshmen started using it, and then they graduated and tried to find a job, even if it was just their blog. And you're like, that picture of you doing a keg stand, your future employer is going to look at that. It's like, don't blog anything you don't want your mom seeing. Don't blog anything you don't want your kids, your family, your potential customers seeing, and it never forgets. You can delete that tweet, but Google's got it somewhere, and people will find it. So here I will quickly, I'm going to draw you a map. So you got to figure out what your product is, build an API around it, do your blog. You may even want to start your blog before you even launch. Get your Twitter account before you even launch. Once you've launched, get a Facebook page. Facebook app, Twitter app can be exchanged for some other presence. But you need to figure out what here's my core competency, this is my actual business, and then everything else is what I call an outpost. It's like Facebook is not your primary business. Heaven help you if it is. They're not you can't trust that they have your interests at heart, because they absolutely do not. They just don't. Facebook may go away tomorrow. They won't go away tomorrow. It may be a week. But you can bet that they will change something that screws you over in the very near future. They've already done it to people who develop apps about 1 billion times. So you have to be careful about where you go next with your product. And it can't be your sole source of, like, this is what we do. We build Facebook pages. I'm sorry, you're going to have to make new business cards in 2 weeks. So what's left? Contests. So I have to make a confession about the contests. We do a lot of them, and they're all a pain in the butt. Pros, they are a great way to attract users and attract buzz, especially if you get a good partner. Like we did a contest with MTV. It was huge because MTV was attached to it. And people just love winning stuff. They don't care about the actual validation of our computer telling them that their song is cool. They're like, I won the MTV contest. I'm awesome. They are a legal headache. I hate lawyers. Okay, I don't hate them personally. I hate having to deal with them. Contests require all kinds of rules and guidelines, and they're just a nightmare. So they are expensive. You will be spending money with a lawyer in order to run even the most basic contest. You better have a lawyer. You have to have a prize worth giving away, which can also be a pain. And then you have to manage all the entries. And people going, I can't enter the contest. I can't enter it. It becomes a support nightmare. So if you're going to run more than one, don't have your lawyer draw up guidelines for every single contest. If they can't do a Mad Libs form of the contest rules, find a new lawyer. The rules for a contest do not change. Don't change how you fulfill contests. Do not change how you run contests. Do not change the rules for contests. Just have them do the Mad Libs version, and we have our office manager fill in the blanks every time. And then it takes the lawyer 5 minutes to go, yep, you filled in the blanks correctly, launch, and we're done. Be careful who you partner with. Make it their responsibility to fulfill the prize, not yours, because they will happily leave you in the lurch. Share marketing responsibilities, especially if you're small and just starting out. Don't try to do it all yourself. Or if you do a contest on your own and you don't have the reach, make it something small. Give away an iPod. Give away a laptop. Don't give away, $10,000 because you probably won't make that back. And don't run short ones unless it's a giveaway. Like if it's just on your blog, you can do a giveaway in a week. But let them run for a while. It allows the buzz to build. Like we had a contest that ran for 4 months, and we got all of our entries in the last 2 weeks because that's when people actually found out about it. And be explicit about who's eligible. People get really upset if they enter your contest and they can't actually win it. Sucks to be them, sucks to be you. This whole interstate commerce thing is great, set up in the Constitution, doesn't actually work because everybody's got different rules about how prizes are taxed. Don't ever try to run a contest in Massachusetts or Colorado. Run by people who hate winning things. Just horrible. But yeah, that's another thing, start looking at the fine print on contests and give that to your lawyer as a guideline. And any questions about contests? I don't really like that we do them. I understand the marketing potential, but being the one who has to deal with the headaches, they're a pain. Nothing? Questions about anything else? I went really quickly. But hopefully I answered all 4 questions. You can hope. No. That's awesome. Let's try the other one. See, this is what happens when I leave for a day. Let's try the other game. Okay. I won't make you sit through. This song, and then you have to pick which of the other two. My favorite is to do it only. Works great with heavy metal. Well, we know that it works. Like we have a test set that's way larger. Yeah, like there's only so far that the machine can go. We can layer on top of that the collaborative filtering. The great thing about what we can do, and I hate smack talk, but this one's actually true, so it's cool. The great and horrible thing about collaborative filtering is that you need a ton of data before any of it makes sense. You know, like Amazon's recommendations when they first started sucked. Netflix's recommendations when they first started sucked. It wasn't until they had millions upon millions of ratings that you can actually take that and make some sense out of it. We can go out of the gate with your library, with any library of music, with good recommendations. And then the collaborative filtering on top of that only makes it better. So if you wanted to go to like launch in India, Pandora to launch in India, and I love Pandora. To launch in India, they would have to hire musicologists, which is what they call the people who have headphones and listen to music and rate it all day. They'd have to hire them in India and rate the entire catalog before they could create radio stations. All we need is the music and a week to rip through it all, and you've got recommendations right away. Well, the music industry is in this great and horrible, wonderful time where the gatekeepers are dying. They will not admit it and just get out of the way, and they still have most of the money. So it's the guy in LA going, "I can't do my job." Yeah, it can. It does a better job than we do. You know, for artists, it's this really scary time where they have this dream of getting that big label deal, even though every label deal that artists sign screws them over. They make so little money on that. And the label actually fails 90-something% of the time. You know, almost 90% of first record deals are never recouped by the label. That's a horrible track record. That's almost as bad as the publishing industry. You know, there are artists now who are abandoning it. They're established artists like Radiohead and OK Go, Madonna. They all just were like, I don't need you anymore. I don't need my label. I will do it all on my own. And that's great for them. Like Trent Reznor, I think, is probably leading the pack. He's the one to pay attention to. But there are people just starting out who are doing the exact same thing. People like Jonathan Colton and Pomplamoose. If you saw that, it got annoying about the fourth or fifth time you saw it, but the Hyundai Christmas ad with those two kids running around, they're just this duo in San Francisco who started posting things on YouTube and got a huge following. They sell all their stuff on iTunes, and they got picked for a major nationwide ad campaign. They have no label, they have no distribution deal, and they don't want one. You know, they want to do it on their own. So honestly, I don't care about the label. The labels can just go off and die. It's not a sustainable model anymore because no one buys CDs. Labels were all set up for the physical distribution of goods. That's not where we're headed. It's all virtual. Copies are free. You've got to find another way to make money making music than selling CDs. So our artists love us. We have a subscription. So we charge artists, you know, you come in, we do the freemium model. So if you've read anything by 37 Signals, you guys know who 37 Signals is? No? Okay. Buy Rework. Write it down, go buy it, read it. You can read their first book, Getting Stuff Done, for free online. It's really good. But we give away 2 songs when you sign up. And that usually gets them hooked because musicians are, there's the public perception of this huge ego. But inside they're all really insecure and they demand and require validation. And the only people that have given most of these kids validation are their parents and maybe their best friend. We can give them a score from a computer, a completely objective observer that says, your song is good, or maybe it's not. And hopefully they're hooked after that. Then they sign up for a subscription, which is every 2 months. They can either get 2 songs, if they don't produce a lot, 2 songs every 6 months, or 15 songs. We make money that way. We make money through the contests. Either the partner pays us or people pay to enter the contest. And then we'll do B2B deals. Like if someone wants to do a lot of analysis. We haven't really, again, this will be a great tool for either publishing or A&R. But they also have overinflated egos and no self-confidence and don't want anyone coming in and stealing their pie. My favorite contest that we've done so far is we had Second City. You guys all remember SCTV. They're an improv troupe, and they're making movies now, and they needed a song for this particular scene. And they somehow got hooked up with us, and we ran a contest to pick the song for that scene. So they didn't have to pay this huge music licensing fee for, I need something that sounds good in a bar. We ran a contest. They didn't have to listen to 1,000 submissions. We picked the best 10. They picked the one they wanted. Contest was over. Indie struggling artist gets to say, hey, look, I'm on this soundtrack. I was in a movie. It's huge for them to get that kind of validation. Hopefully that answers it. We did the thing with the movie. We've worked with labels in the past. We have a bunch of artists who use our stuff to tell them what tracks to put on their release, in what order. Like we've had labels go, what singles should we release first from this album? We can do movies. Radio is sort of in the same position the labels are in. Terrestrial radio is losing listeners by the bucket load. They're all streaming things over the net. And I think 90-something% of terrestrial radio is owned by 3 companies. It's owned by CBS, Clear Channel, or one of the other ones. So it's the same thing. It's the guy in the suit saying, you will listen to this, and they're in cahoots with the record labels. So they're not there to serve the listener. They're there to serve the advertiser and the label and whoever else. Yes. Yeah, we could. I can neither confirm nor deny it. Right. Right, and that's part of there is that joy of discovery. I use Rdio, rdio.com, and it's not Pandora. It's sort of an all-you-can-eat, you just find stuff, which makes it sort of tedious when you're trying to compile your playlist for the day. But I have that moment of like, oh my God, this is awesome, like every day of finding something new. I think we can do that better than anybody else. Pandora, the way they do recommendations is a combination of, they have 20 full-time employees who do nothing but listen to music and rate it on 20-something different attributes. And that's how they do the matching, and then collaborative filtering on top of that. Collaborative filtering works well most of the time. When it fails, it fails spectacularly.
Final comment.
I mean, on us, we have all the potential in the world. It's just picking where we go and how we get there. Uplay.com has been an education in the music industry for me. I had no idea who the players were. I was brought in to do the web stuff. Now I do that and go, holy shit, you people are crazy. The music people all the time. On the social stuff and APIs, you've got to get out there, but you have to be yourself. If you're not your target user, hire someone who is and let them do it. But you've got to trust them and trust your users to do the right thing and let them be your marketing. You don't need Madison Avenue. You can do it yourself. There you go.
Perfect. Thank you, Kevin. Outstanding.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. Well done. Kevin, is there some way these folks could help you?
If you know musicians, send them to our site. Spanish folks say flyer.
Thank you so much. I'm going to bring up Cal next, President for the Party Stock.
And Paul, thank you very much for helping organize Kevin and getting the presentation together. Thank you, Kevin. Just a quick note on what Tag Enterprise 2.0 is. We talked about trying to figure out what 2.0 really means, and we've tried to say that it's the tools and the processes that solve things in a collaborative, collective way. Next month, we'll have a speaker out of the sports arena. We're not telling you which team they represent, but it's one of the teams that people pay to see in town, and it'll be talking about how to promote their team in the same kind of environment that we all live in, where there's all this information going around, and how do you get time and get attention and get engagement. We'll be doing these programs once a month, same time, generally Wednesday mornings, and hope that you'll pass the word. We want to thank our one sponsor, Morris Manning Martin, who helps cover the cost of these events. And we are looking for a couple of volunteers to help with some programming. So if you're interested in getting involved with our society, let myself or Paul, Chuck here. Chuck is here as well. So let us know, and we're glad to help out. Thanks for coming out this morning.